welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cons that happen in October. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love going to conventions. I love it. We have a super awesome, exciting episode today that I'm ready to just dive right into. And let's thank our patrons. We got to get that in there, David. We gotta. As always, it's because of the patrons out there, all of you folks out there helping support the show, that this is possible. So this year's cutoff for the swag has passed. It was at the beginning of it was by May, and so we're halfway through June now. So, but you can still become a patron at any level, and we would love to have you. Patrons at any level get a little bit of something. So in October at Con of the Rings. So that'll be exciting. All our swag is supposed to time up with the Con of the Rings. So it's easy to distribute at that point. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, join us right down here. It's patreon.com/cardtalk2018, and you can join at any tier that you wish. And I would love to thank our 42 patrons. We're getting up there. Pretty soon we'll hit the nifty 50 mark. Hoping to do that soon. That would be exciting. But our patrons are Manuel, Grant, Katie, Eric, Rachel, Tony, Valentin, Eric, Duran's father, Moritz, Anders, Shane, Micah, Chris, Reagan, Robert, Brandon, Scott, Joe. I can't do it in one breath. I forgot to take a deep breath. Alex, Edmund, Peter, Niall, Carl, Vardane, James, Joshua, Matt, Russ, Justin, Jason, Robert, Kyle, Daniel, Mike, Robert, David, Sean, Lou, Phil, Joseph, and Dominic. I knew we'd get there one day.
I know, right? It's just super uncomfortable. Really quick, I've been talking to patrons more and more, mainly because there's more patrons on the list. And I had a very pleasant conversation with Micah, and Micah is he lives in Canada. He's one of our friends from the north, and he said he remembers listening to the podcast when it first came out while he was vacuuming his basement. And so he would listen to the podcast, vacuum the basement, and he said it was vacuum listening. And so Micah, thank you so much for continually listening to the podcast. I say that because our guest today, the first time he was on the show, I don't know, 100 years ago, I remember him giving us a little story that he used to, when he would shovel the snow, he would listen to the podcast back then too. So maybe it's something about Card Talk and doing chores. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? But John, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's good to have you.
Hey, it's good to be back, Dave. It's been a minute, as they say. So.
Yeah. As Caleb would say, it's been a hot second.
Hot second. There we go. Yeah.
Right. So, John, I mean, we haven't talked since, I don't know, since we talked about the long defeat nigh on 2 years ago. So, man, a lot has happened in that 2 years.
It has. It's felt like a lifetime in some ways. It's nice to know that Lord of the Rings was built for years such as 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Stuck playing inside and likely by yourself. So that's what we.
Yeah. Nate French had no idea that he was building a COVID ready card game.
Yeah, COVID ready.
All the decks that were on my wish list, they all got built.
Yeah.
Right.
They got built and tested.
And now C-Stan is helping you develop even more decks with his ALEP stuff.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So, John, I guess, since it's been a while since we've talked, I'm interested in first, before the game, even we get into talking about the game and the things that don't matter as much. How are you doing? How have you managed through the pandemic? How is your family doing? And, and those sorts of things.
Good. My family's in good health, which I'm very grateful for. It's nice to be a bit back out in the world now. And, Yeah, I gotta say the pandemic changed a lot of things, obviously, but one thing it did not change was just this interest in making sure that Con of the Rings kept going. So I know we were quiet for a while, but we were quiet for a while because there's nothing to say. We were just all going through it, and it's good to be back and be back in the game center. It's good to be back in person with the planning team, and yeah, it's just I don't know. It's sometimes you just look around and you just go, oh my gosh, things feel normal, and then you just feel extremely grateful for everything, and that's good.
Yeah, and you know, another thing I guess I should mention, if people are coming in from the United States, Minnesota also right close by in Minneapolis made the news for other reasons, with and so how is Minneapolis handling, coping, and dealing with a lot of the George Floyd issues going on there, at least from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's I gotta say, in some ways, it's a little hard to say because I'm in St. Paul, which although I know to outsiders seems like whatever,
right, it's all the same thing. Minnesota's
yeah,
Minnesota, right? Whether
the shift across the river is actually pretty stark. But I think all the same, I think there's healing going on. There's a lot of questions going on. I live not too far away from the airport that carries a lot of the helicopters that SWAT teams use. And so I always sort of know when something's up because I hear that particular helicopter go over. And then we know that something's usually going down elsewhere. But I think we're somewhat hopeful about the future. I think a lot of our leaders are listening, which is good. And, I think from the standpoint of just kind of everyday people in Minneapolis and St. Paul anyway, it's like, it's started a lot of good, difficult, but good conversations, which I think need to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's really good. And so many things need to happen in a lot of different ways. But thinking about it from people traveling to Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a lot of the tensions have calmed down. Is that is that a reasonable thing to talk about, or?
Yeah, no, I think it's a reasonable thing to say, and I think that if people come to the Twin Cities at any point in the near future, I think it is good to go see our recent history. I mean, I do. I think it is, and I know some complaints that happen in our cities about some of the so-called tourism that has gone on around George Floyd, but I think it's good to go. It's good to go down there and see the place where something important happened and someone important passed away that hopefully is going to change things for the better. There's already conversations about memorials and all that sort of what's going to be permanent there on that site. But I'm really hopeful this is something that we won't forget too soon.
Yeah, and I know that Card Talk is kind of a gaming fun podcast, but I think that we always bring you on as somebody from Con of the Rings and the organizer from Con of the Rings, and I think it would be it'd be almost irresponsible for me as a guy who's hosting a podcast to not at least mention something of that magnitude.
Yeah.
It's something that has impacted, depending on who you are, good or bad, whatever. It's something that has impacted the whole of the United States and beyond its borders. So I can't have you on the podcast without at least talking about those things and that and those impacts that it has, not only out there, but also to you and your family and to the con, and how that's happening with the Con of the Rings.
Yeah. No, thank you.
You're our we need like a social compass, social moral compass. Just we always lean on you. Just point us the right way.
Right.
Whole frightening. I don't know.
Otherwise, we're just spinning around.
Right. Yeah, and so I appreciate your candor and candidness with talking about the George Floyd. I don't want to say incident because it's grown to much more than an incident, but the George Floyd stuff that's going on.
If I were a hard-hitting reporter, CNN would have already hired me, I guess. But maybe something a little more close to home. We had Caleb on in February, and Caleb talked for a long time about the impact of his own personal views and religion on his kind of outlook on the game, and that was good. And John, I mean, I'm not asking you to go into your religious beliefs too much, but I know that you're in the process of becoming a deacon for the church, and that's good. How's that going?
That's been good. It's actually, it's weird to be. So I'm again studying to be a deacon in the Catholic Church, permanent deacon. I'm a couple of years in. Obviously, COVID just disrupted my schooling like it did everybody else's, which is kind of funny. But I think the good thing is one of the things that deacons, at least in the Catholic tradition, are kind of the folks who sort of sit on the margin between the church as it is active and people who are really struggling or hurting in different ways, kind of on the edges of society. Pope Francis talks a lot about going to the margins and bringing people to the center from the margins, right? That's kind of his language. The nice thing that I'm really glad about, especially right now, is during COVID, being in formation, studying to be a deacon, not yet a deacon, we all had to really sort of just go to school, either online or in person. And a lot of our normal internships and being out in the world was really curtailed because a lot of the places where we would normally go for internships were closed. So we did a internship with folks experiencing homelessness pre-COVID, and then we had to wait. It was actually just 2 weeks ago that we finally started our ministry to the sick and suffering internship. So I'm spending a lot of time in nursing homes right now, chatting with people who haven't had a visitor in 12 to 18 months. So that's been amazing because there's just a lot of folks who have a lot to get off their chest, suffering they've experienced, friends they've had who've passed away. And so to be able to sit and listen to that is just like one of the great joys of my life right now, which is pretty it's good to sit and listen and just be with people in the midst of all that.
You've always, for as much as I've known you, like, we're not super close buddies, but I know that you and I have had some conversations outside of Lord of the Rings and outside of this, and so I've always known you to be a very compassionate person and also a very good listener. So I think that pursuing this is a great thing for the Catholic Church. I think that that's awesome for them. And at the risk of laying my own personal stuff out there to the crew, I will say that my own mother is in a nursing home, and it's been a real challenge for anybody to go see her. And so, me included, I'd have to, in order to see her, she's up in upstate New York. I'm down here in New Jersey, so I'd have to drive 4 hours. I would have to, get COVID tests. I'm vaccinated now, so that's fine. But, and so it's just to even see my own mom has been a real struggle, especially, living in New York State, New Jersey, where the first, where the huge blow up happened at the very beginning of the thing. Like, people were just really, anyways, that said, it's kind of, you're hitting me, John. So as we
got some good news to talk about. Good things.
I know it seems like, and
very important things to call out, David. So thank you.
Yeah. I think, it's important to discuss some of the weight of all the things that have happened over the past year and a half. Some people can get real tunnel vision on all the things that have happened. And then, sometimes we forget, some of the fun things that are going on. And so, John, this is my lame attempt at a segue, but John, you're one of the I don't know if there's a lead organizer, but you're definitely one of the main men of Con of the Rings. Yes. And before I completely turn it over to you, I will say that if there's one thing that we have missed through the past
year and a half is just live fellowship, like, and I think that's something that Con of the Rings is destined to provide. It's fine that we meet over digital, all of that. That's great. I all my podcasts, I've met Ted once in my life. There he is digitally, like we talk every week digitally, but there's nothing that feels as good as live fellowship, playing the game that we all love. So, John, thank you for bringing Con of the Rings back in 2021.
It is our distinct honor, shall I say. It's I cannot tell you, so to kind of get into it, Con of the Rings has been around since 2018. That was Con of the Rings 1 occurred in October 2018. Con of the Rings 2 was October 2019. Con of the Rings 3 was prepared for October of 2020, and then obviously had to be shut down due to COVID. So we're still going to call this Con of the Rings 3, 2021.
Okay.
But actually, we're just, what was it now? Last Friday night. So I think it was like the 5th or 6th of June, 2021, back in the game center for the first time as a planning team since the previous February. So it was, 16 months, I think. And I arrived a little bit early. I took a seat in the absolute back of the gaming area so that I could watch everybody come in. I just wanted to just have that experience.
Oh,
and
great.
Mark showed up. Loophole came in, and he didn't see me. He was browsing some of the games on the racks for a bit. I just sat there. I was just like, oh my gosh, here he is in person.
Right.
It was such a funny moment. And then he turned around and he saw me, and I just stood up and I just started slow clapping him from across the game center. I was like, it's you, it's me. So yeah. And then Ben and Aaron, and watching Nick come in a little bit later. It was so good to be back. We sat down and played right away before we started planning, as we usually try to do. And it was just great. It was so good to be back and have physical cards in hand and just be joking and messing around and catching up. And yeah, and then if that can happen for 130 more players come October of this year, we're just going to be the happiest guys in the world. So,
and I think a lot of us need it. A lot of us, I think that's important.
Certainly. I think let's just before we continue on, just in case we have any new listeners or people tuning in or haven't been on your show before, John, why don't you just introduce the platform convention that we're talking about?
Yeah, so Con of the Rings is an unofficial gathering of Lord of the Rings LCG players from across the world. It takes place almost every year in Roseville, Minnesota, which is the town that is the headquarters of Fantasy Flight Games and Asmodee North America. For the last 2 years, it's been hosted at the Fantasy Flight Games Center in Roseville, which is now an independent organization called the Game Center, run by former FFG founder and CEO Christian Peterson. I think I got all that right. But in short, it is a community-run 3-day convention. So this year, 2021, October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's basically Lord of the Rings gaming all day and a good chunk into the evening. We set it up every year as we pick about 18 to 20 quests to play as a group. We put up special achievements, and the goal essentially is for together all of the attendees at the convention to defeat every single quest that we have selected for that year and complete the achievements. As you finish quests and finish them in interesting ways or unexpected ways, you earn achievements, which basically gets you extra drawings into prize raffles and things like that. But broadly speaking, it is about the most laid-back convention in the world in a lot of ways. There's very few special events. It's a lot of open playing, meeting new people. And I think for a lot of folks who attend, in fact, probably about a third of them, the only chance that they have during the year to regularly get in multiplayer games of Lord of the Rings in person. A lot of
solo players.
Yeah.
I don't know where you are on the screen.
I'm above you right now, Ted.
Okay. Solo players. And I guarantee there's at least one person who's like, there's a what? and it's when.
Yeah.
And
And you should come. And you should come. Whoever you are, you should.
Yeah. And kind of the rings, it's like the perfect iteration of like, if you build it, they will come, right? It's the perfect like embodiment of that, where it's like, build the convention and will players show up? And yes, they do.
Yes. So
here's the details, where and when.
Sold out our first year, 2 years, and sold out during the COVID year too, before we had to refund everybody. So it's worked. I mean, we try to keep it small. We try to keep it personal. The location, as I mentioned, the game center, or the former Fantasy Flight Game Center, it has got a full restaurant. It has alcohol. It has drinks. It has coffee. It has decent breakfast in the morning. We get a special hotel block that's within walking distance. As informal as it is, we try to make it as convenient an experience for people as possible. We try to keep costs extremely low throughout the course of the weekend. So our tickets are under $50. Everybody walks away with swag every year, so sort of a special convention thank you in some physical form. And it's really, I think in a lot of ways, it is the convention that those of us who are on the planning team, the 5 of us, the convention that we wanted to see. It comes straight out of me and Mark going to Gen Con 2017, doing all the Lord of the Rings stuff there, but then saying, we can't get back to Gen Con every year. So how do we basically lift the Lord of the Rings experience out of Gen Con and place it in a much more relaxed atmosphere that's not as overwhelming as like 50,000 people in the Indianapolis Convention Center? Because I am the most extroverted guy in the world, and Gen Con was absolutely exhausting to me. So I can't hack it. Can't nobody hack it? It's like, everybody walks away from there tired. It's amazing, but for me, it was very much like a couple times in my life sort of experience. And so we want to lift it out and say, let's put it at the home of Lord of the Rings. The past 2 years, we've had Caleb Grace there. We've had MJ Newman drop by. We've had Nate French drop by. Folks who are obviously in the area, because FFG is literally in the same building. It's a couple doors down from the game center. So
I'll never forget, because I went to Con of the Rings 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I can verify everything, just in case you guys think that it's not attainable. Like for me, the biggest expense was getting an airplane. But then, like you split the hotel room with somebody, or, somebody in the area and you stay with them or whatever. And that's reasonable. And then, you go to the game center at that point, and you literally walk. I remember carrying I'm not going to do it this year, but I remember carrying my luggage. I had all my Lord of the Rings cards in a wheel luggage thing, and I just lugged it right over to the game center. It's like it's not even a block away. So, super convenient. Caleb showing up was amazing. And, he's just been the heart and soul of the game for so long. And, I forget exactly what I was getting at, but, there was a reason why I was going to, I don't know, but the point is that when John says that it's super reasonable, it is totally reasonable. It's like financially. Oh, I was gonna say is that it's so easy to just go in and slide into the Lord of the Rings into this convention, because if you don't know anybody, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know anybody, you see me, come up to Ted, we'll play a game with you. Like, we have no compunctions. We'll say, hey, yep, come on in. We'll do it. And I'm always, I look around and I say, well, I must be the crazy one, right? Because everybody else is just so laid back and relaxed that if everybody else is laid back and relaxed, I must be the crazy one. So, and if I'm the crazy one, then that means the whole thing is just super. Like, it's exactly what you want in a convention.
Yeah. And I think too, I will say, I think especially because of Aaron, so Fishbaugh, who's very active in the Lord of the Rings community. He's the audio editor for Cardboard the Rings. He's on our planning team. he's kind of the guy that spearheaded in a lot of ways. And I just want to give him all credit for being the guy that is always asking, how do we mix up people? How do we make sure people meet as many people as possible, but in a way that's sort of non-threatening at this convention? So as part of our achievement system last year, we introduced what we called our universal achievement system, which is sort of a series of different goals that you can work towards yourself over the course of the weekend, regardless of what quests you're playing. So one of the ones that we did last year, I think we called it the Free People's Achievement. But when you registered for Con of the Rings, you put in your name and you tell us how you want it to be displayed on your name tag for the convention, your badge, and you get to pick a weapon of the Free Peoples. If you like dwarves, you pick an axe. If you like hobbits, you pick Sting basically, or a bow or whatever. And then one of the achievements is actually to sit down and play a 4-player game where every person at the table has a different weapon on their badge. So you actually, if you want to do that, you actually have to go walk through the convention and kind of wave your name badge at people and say, my sword and my axe and my bow. And that's by design, right? Is to mix people up. And there are folks who come and, we have friends who see each other once or twice a year, and they come to this convention to basically play with each other. But even those that do that start branching out so quickly or pulling in more people. I mean, obviously, Dave, it's been an honor to play with you over the course of the previous game we were at. Ted, did we not get a game in, Ted, last time around?
I don't know if we did.
Okay, I don't think we did.
We were always sitting near each other.
Yeah,
games are going on, so everyone's always chatting back and forth. And it almost feels like you're playing with everybody.
Yes, yeah, it does.
You're sitting down, and then to the left and right of you are just more people playing games.
Yeah,
so everyone's chatting, and they're waiting for their planning phase or something, and they're just looking over and oh, what just came out of your encounter deck? Like that happens all the time.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it is pretty fun. And I think one of my favorite things from last year, from 2019, was getting to sit down with the guys from Three's company to play basically with their podcast, which was because I listen to all of the Lord of the Rings podcasts as much as I can, shoveling or not shoveling. And but I mean, just to sit down and be like, some guy flew from the UK for this, some guy flew from Australia for this, just blows me away every time to actually look out. I mean, all of the Americans that come, great, the Canadians that come, great, but like the folks who make a real serious sacrifice internationally, it's more than you would think. I think we had people from something like, it was like 16 countries in 2019. I mean, it was a little bonkers. So you just look out and you go, okay, something's happening here. There's something about this game, and there's something about that cooperative nature and Tolkien just bringing people together. And you're right, Dave, it's beyond friendship, it's beyond hobby. It is truly fellowship in the way that Tolkien meant it. And that's pretty great. Again, it's an honor. Like, we obviously do this, kind of on the side as very much a hobby thing, but every hour we spend on this convention is, you feel like you're working with the source material. You feel like and the source material is both Tolkien and the game and the people that are coming. And it's just to try to hold that carefully and do honor to it. It's fun. It's fun and it's fulfilling. Every year when we open up the doors and it's like, oh my gosh, they're lined up. They actually came.
They really like us.
It is, but it's like, oh, it's real. The con does not become real until the moment people walk in. And then it just sort of springs up out of the ground, and it's just the best feeling. So I love my hobby job, guys.
Your hobby job.
Yeah, I love my hobby job.
And like I said, I think that this year, more than any year, this is a year that people, need is a strong word, but will really, really more than others appreciate the hard work and effort that you've done to bring people together.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the particulars. Ted brought us to the, how this came to be, what it is. I know that we had some stuff in store for 2020. It wasn't because of the pandemic, that wasn't hugely advertised around. You didn't really make the podcast loop like you do normally. So
because nobody was sure that things were going to happen, and thank goodness it didn't, because of all the crazy things that were going on in the world. But as 2021 heats up and it's looking more and more likely, I guess I have to ask you, what's the percentage that this thing is going to definitely happen?
Yeah, I think barring unforeseen circumstances, which is a big if these days, we are at 99% ready to go. Basically,
Right.
We have contracts signed with the Game Center. We have contracts signed with the DoubleTree Roseville, the hotel down the street, to offer a special discounted rate, and I believe breakfast as well. Yeah, we swag design is done. We are basically waiting to open ticket sales. So the way that we are basically planning on doing this, and I don't think we've laid this out anywhere until here tonight, here on the 13th of June. Tomorrow, the 14th of June, we are going to be sending out a message to everyone that is on our mailing list. And if you're not on our mailing list, you can get on there by just going to conoftheringsmn.com and filling out the little sign up form to join our newsletter. It's just a MailChimp newsletter. It's free and we won't spam you. And basically what we're doing is tomorrow we will be officially announcing that on the 21st of June, ticket sales for the 2021 convention will open up for folks who purchased a ticket in 2020 and had to be refunded. So we want to honor and give all due respect to everyone who trusted us enough in 2021 to give us money, which we gave back, and to basically say to those folks, hey, you're coming in first. So there will be sort of a special private ticket purchasing period, the 21st to the 27th of June, for folks who had refunds last year to come in first. And we are just kind of asking, and on the honor system, asking people to try to purchase the same number of tickets they did the previous year. So if you purchase 2 for 2020, try not to purchase 8 for 2021. That's so we're gonna give that week-long period.
You know what's really funny, John, is that this community will honor that. This is the community where we say, hey guys, listen, if you bought 1 ticket, just buy 1. If you bought 3, you can buy 3. That's fine. And you know what? Every single person will honor that because we don't have any trolls in this community. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, so we're going to do that the 21st to the 27th of June. Then the morning of Monday, June 28th, we're going to open up ticket sales to the public. And whatever is left over at that point of 130 potential slots available, that will just run until it runs.
Right.
And if you're on the fence, I will tell you, we have sold out every year within about 2.5 weeks. And we have very few folks who ask for a full refund in the months that follow. People tend to hold on to those tickets. So if you're on the fence, don't dive in. It'll be great. You'll love it. So go for it.
What is again, I hate to bring it back to this, but so what is going to be the safety concerns that are in place? Is there anything is Minnesota, because you may have people coming from all over the place, what's the status of the pandemic issues going on right now in Roseville to do that?
We obviously can't, we do not have under our control any of those things, right?
Sure.
And I will say that the Game Center has made a commitment to us that if the weekend of the convention, social distancing restrictions were to be in such a place that they could not be open to the public and hold the convention at the same time, they will shut down the entire Game Center for us and open up the entire space to us. So they've made that commitment. It's a very clear commitment on their part. Again, we don't anticipate to be at that point. Basically, in Minnesota right now, if one is fully vaccinated, one is not obliged to wear a mask in public. We will obviously welcome people regardless of their feelings on masks. I'm sure we will have 5 times as much hand sanitizer and the like available. But we are under the expectation that, just given the way numbers are going in the United States right now, again, not an epidemiologist, that we would expect, as many, at least, Americans who want a vaccine will be vaccinated by that point. And so the risk of transmission would be, we imagine, relatively low. Again, everybody has to make their own decisions. I will also say that numbers in Minnesota have been falling at about the same rate as everywhere else across the country at this point. And one of the good things about having this in October is that, we will still be in sort of autumn here, not in sort of the deep winter months where transmission rates tend to go up for, for everything, just because people are indoors and HVAC's on all the time and all the rest of it.
Right.
So.
And that's good to know. So, so there's basically, you're saying that if you're able and willing to go to your local grocery store and do some shopping, you should be able and willing to come to the Game Center in October.
Yeah, I think again, like we don't know necessarily what the future holds, but barring some ridiculous unforeseen circumstance, which we cannot even imagine, I think we're gonna be okay. It
Right.
feels a bit different this time around, and again, the Game Center staff, I mean, they're still being extremely careful right now, and they removed restrictions about as slowly as anybody in their position could be for a retailer.
Right.
So feel pretty good about things.
Go ahead, Ted.
Just to clarify, So just to clarify, as of today's recording date, which is the 13th of June. Sorry to date we've already dated it several times, Dave.
That's fine. No, you're fine.
So as of today's date, with the federal guidelines and the state's guidelines, they're allowing the convention to happen.
Yep.
You can show up vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Right.
Correct. Okay. And then masks are, I believe the current federal guideline is vaccinated people, masks are optional, but non-vaccinated people are required to wear masks. Right. I believe. So that is the current policy as well.
Right. Yeah. And we are going to be following essentially the Game Center's policy, which is that they do not check vaccination status or anything like that at the door. So is it not an honor system at this point? Yes, it is. But we know our community. We know they're an honorable bunch. So don't think there will be an issue.
Right.
Yeah, everyone has to make their own health choices, but I just wanted to clarify that for everyone listening, so they understand it at least. And you'll of course send out, people can jump on the mailing list. If anything really important changes, of course you'll be updating everyone with the Zen Game Center.
Yeah. And we basically, what we do every year is we always follow their policies. So the policies change, our policies change. Is just kind of the easiest way to go about it. So
yeah. Well, I'm going to continue talking about the con, and I'm going to put the pandemic behind us, because this is, all this discussion of pandemic sometimes is exhausting. So, John, one of the reasons why I love having you on the show to talk about the con is because every once in a while you give us a little bit of a spoiler or a little bit of a sneak peek into what's going on. So, I'm not sure exactly what you have in terms of spoilers or sneak peeks for us, but is there anything that you would like to share with us before we move along?
Yeah, I think so. A couple things that maybe have not been announced quite yet. Number one, although we can't really say anything about it, we're going to try to make sure that the swag this year honors the full length of the game. The fact that we just came up on Lord of the Rings 10-year anniversary, the card game. We're trying to make sure that the swag honors that. I won't say anything more about that, other than to say that we have also worked with Relento again, who did our card design. He did our original logo design. He did our Con of the Rings 2019 swag design right there. You know, flip to the side there if you would, there, people watching on the video. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Don't break it.
What did you call it? A living hinge?
Yes, a living hinge. Yes. So we're working on the swag. So that's a good thing to see. I think the only other thing I will say at this time is that it's been public for a while that we have that we choose 2 cycles a year. So this year, players are going to be asked to bring and participate in what we call our extravaganza quests, all the quests that have got achievements associated with them. The Haradrim cycle and the Arid Mithrin cycle. We are throwing in Ruins of Belagost because from a thematic standpoint, it's kind of in the same neck of the woods, dragons and the north and all that. But we just made the decision last week that because it's out and because it has an epic multiplayer mode, why not just play Hunt for the Dreadnought together on So if you have not picked up your copy of Hunt for the Dreadnought yet, you should do that, because I cannot stay away from boats and eagles smashing into boats and multiplayer mode. And none of us wanted to play. Gosh, what's the one everybody hates? What's the?
You could literally have the entire convention playing Hunt for the Dreadnought at the same time.
I know. 130 people. on boats. I mean, what's better than one person on a boat? 130 people on a boat.
MJ would go nuts if everybody was playing all at once.
Everybody's gonna be on a boat, yeah. So that would probably be my other spoiler. Other than that,
all the boats will be 6 feet apart from each other.
Yes, yeah,
right.
All the boats will be
socially distanced boats.
That was the big joke last year as we were all playing Dream Chaser Cycle. I made it a point to bring an Ent deck for the Dream Chaser Cycle so that every time a ship sank, you could say, "Some of those trees were my friends," because that's the best thing to do when you're sinking a boat is shout out some of these trees were my friends.
Do you wanna let us know? And you can say no, but again, I'm the hard-hitting card talk reporter.
Yeah,
I remember the system of, what am I trying to say? Ted, what am I thinking of? The achievements, right? That's the word. So, and so there's achievements associated with each quest. And so there's 20. So there'll be achievements associated with each of the 20 quests that you're doing. And then the universal achievements. Do you have any of those universal achievements that you want to let me know about, or are you going to keep those?
Yes, I think I didn't pull one up. I'm actually going to try to pull one up right now because we're still working a little bit on the language because we print these off on a giant banner that sits at one end of the hall, and people are encouraged to sign their names next to these achievements as they complete them. But one of the things that I would say about this is that a lot of the universal achievements from 2019 are going to remain. So the ones that encourage folks to sort of mix it up a bit, those are all going to stay the same. We have swapped out a few that we felt were not really all that interesting.
Okay.
Because one of the other things we're really trying to do here is we're trying to get people to play the game in a different way than they normally have available to them.
Okay.
So again, epic multiplayer. As much as some people hate playing epic multiplayer, you would be amazed how many people have never done it. And so Conquerings is their one chance, right? And we knew this in 2019. This was the second year of the convention where we opened. It was like something at like 11 o'clock on Friday morning that year, but the game center was open at like 9, and people came 2 hours early. They couldn't come into the convention space because we were still setting up. But I remember wandering out there at some point, and there were 12 people that had pushed tables together to play. What's the one that everybody hates?
Numenus, Siege of Numenus.
Yeah, I think must have been Siege of Numenus, the one that's like fiendishly difficult. And these people had like all flown in that morning and were like, you know what? Let's just play 12 player to get warmed up. And that's when we knew this was a special group of people because to me that just sounds like death. Like I just don't want to be at that table, but lots of people want to be at that table. So
right.
So I will spoil 2 more achievements, and this year there will be 9 universal achievements. We're calling them 9 achievements to rule them all.
Okay.
This year we'll have one called Message from Elrond, everybody's favorite part.
So what you do is you take an achievement from your own life and you give it to somebody else so that they can't accomplish that achievement, right?
You're not wrong. It is win a game with a deck that was created by someone else.
Oh, that's a Ted Bannock achievement.
Yeah. So you pull C-Stan's favorite deck down from Rings DB, build it and come. You can get that achievement right out of the gates. So
it's super fun on site to just ask somebody for a deck because everyone's kind enough to loan it to you. I've never had anyone turn me down, and I find it gives you a great experience to just play something you didn't build. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. And the other ones, I actually just titled this a few days ago. I actually had to go back to my copy of The Hobbit because we're always trying to get the right names for these achievements.
Right.
So this one is called Friends and Fellow Conspirators. That's what Thorin calls Bilbo in the first chapter of The Hobbit. He calls him a friend and fellow conspirator. And this is, you need to win a game where every player is using a different contract. So we know the contracts are there and great, but why not just get a 4-player game going where you have 4 different contracts around
and
the table.
different too. So,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So the 3 hunters. So you take the 3 most popular one: 3 hunters, fellowship, and the bond of friendship, and then somebody's gonna have to play like the ones that not that nobody likes, but the ones that are less popular.
A little bit harder. Yeah, a little bit harder to use.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a good time with that. So yes, there will be those 9 universal achievements, and then of all 20 quests that are being played, each of those quests will have 2 more quest-specific achievements associated with them.
Right.
Some of them are difficult, some of them are just flat out zany about number of dragons you slay, or try to finish the quest with all your heroes have just 1 hit point remaining.
Right.
And it's good fun, and some of them are extremely difficult, and some of them are just off the wall weird. That's kind of the point.
And one of the things that I didn't realize, and this is my own silly fault, I've been to tons of conventions, but I've never been to one for specifically this card game. And so one of the things that I didn't realize, and so this is me passing along my wisdom to people, is that I thought that a lot of the stuff was just for like the first people that do but what you do is once you accomplish it, whether you're the first or whether you've done it, at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, when the con is winding down, doesn't matter. You still put your name on the list, and then, you get entered for prizes and things like that. And I didn't realize that until about halfway through Saturday. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I didn't put my name on, but this year I am definitely putting my name on when I achieve the achievements.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say the first, so 2018, the first year we did this, one of what turned out in hindsight to be a mistake, one of the mistakes we made that year, our first year, was that we only revealed one of the achievements for each of the quests. And then the first people to beat the quest kind of unlocked the second achievement.
Right.
And although we didn't think it was that big of an incentive, there were certain people who would roll right into the convention, like the moment we opened on a given day, and like bust out a game in like 13 minutes. And it was weird. It was really strange. And we were just like, what is going on? Because we're the guy, those of us who are on the planning team, we're not very competitive guys. We're just not in this. We get Lord of the Rings as a co-op game and all the rest. And so we actually ended up getting rid of that in year 2, because we realized that even that was enough of incentive for people to so-called like race, beat each other. And there were just some people who were like not there for that. And so to get rid of that was one of the best decisions we ever made, because again, it just re-emphasized that community building. There's no competitive, there's no timer. This is not about being better than the people next to you. It is about,
unless you're playing competitive mode.
Right. Which again was something we supported last year, because a player came to us and said, I would like to run a competitive mode tournament. And we said, awesome, go do that. We will give you a microphone when you need to announce your pairings. That's the extent to which we support competitive play.
Right.
Is we do not deny someone the microphone.
And that rolls into maybe some of my other questions about the con before we get into the card that we're going to talk about.
Which maybe we don't even have to.
Yeah, maybe we don't even get to that point. But Spirit Bilbo, we like him.
Yeah,
but. Yes, 5 minutes of Spirit Bilbo. Do you have anything lined up in terms of special events, or is there anybody, like, sometimes there's the design challenge FFG does, but now that the game has kind of been sunsetted, that may not be a thing. I don't know. Is there any like special events going on?
Yeah, so we are planning on, we don't have a lot of details yet, because there are still places in the Twin Cities that are sort of opening up in this way, but we are planning on doing what we have done in the previous 2 years, which is Thursday night, although the con has not officially begun, finding a space near to the game center where people can gather sort of as their flights come in, as they drive into town, to sort of like, I don't know, maybe eat some chicken wings, hint, hint, drink some beer, play party games, get to know people, that kind of stuff. So that's going to happen somewhere in the area on Thursday. Saturday, we're planning on doing the same thing. We tend to shut down the con on Saturday about 8 or 9 p.m. We still keep the space open and staffed by volunteers for people who want to continue playing games, but most people head off site for kind of a late night, again, head out to a bar, hang out, bring some party games, relax, just congregate. We tend to have sort of funny trivia type games at that point. We have played sort of Lord of the Rings, Who Am I, for a couple of years. We hope that will continue.
I know you guys put Amon Law on the back of my shirt, and I had to guess what I was, and I got it. I have to tell you that I got it.
Yeah. It's every year we think we've gone too far, and then it turns out we haven't gone far enough.
Yeah.
Especially when Derek from Great Company shows up and just starts schooling everyone on lore. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I'm like flipping through the Silmarillion at this point, trying to find something. It's hard. It is very hard. But so we tend to do that on Saturdays. The other thing I will say is that we're pretty much deciding against the designer interview at this point, simply because we know that I don't want to speak for anybody, but in our conversations with designers and other folks' conversations with designers, the design of Lord of the Rings is so far removed from their day-to-day life that frankly they're sort of the specifics of their memory are failing them. The community keeps like calling Caleb back on and they're like, what were you thinking 7 years ago when you built?
I know.
And we're getting a lot more of those like, I don't know, I'm knee deep in Marvel Champions kind of answers.
Right.
But we would like to see if we can do something with the designers. We know that there is a community member who's pretty committed to doing some sort of Lord of the Rings trivia game show at some point during the convention.
You should do trivia. You should do designers versus a team trivia and watch the designers.
You're getting a little too close to what we're planning.
Okay.
Can't say anything, so I'm just gonna back away.
Okay.
That. But yeah, if you could imagine if there was like a group of people that like regularly put out content for this game, even still, and if you like put them on a team to like battle it out with other people, I don't know. Anyway, so something along those lines, I guess, is what we're trying to say. So, but again, we try to keep it relaxed, and then we try to have a system whereby if people want to run their own event, they're able to contact us, and then we're able to help them get signed up. So there's kind of like regularly like One Ring RPG going on in the back. People have run a little bit of like Magic the Gathering on the side. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I'm guessing this year there will be a little bit of Champions floating around as well.
Right.
Because the game, Marvel Champions, I don't even think had come out at the last convention. I think it came out like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
So I think there will be a lot of that going on informally. But as we know about things, we tend to try to do about one newsletter every 2 to 3 weeks during the summer to just kind of drip out the information. And it all goes up on our website again, conoftheringsmn.com, just to make sure that people are in the loop all the time. But as you know, Dave, Ted, like really a lot of what we try to do is we try not to pack the schedule. We really try to be and that's by design. That's not because we're lazy. It's because we know that for every person that asks us, well, could you do this, and this? Like we always put it up against the yardstick of, could everyone participate? And how much more challenging is it on the attendee to like pack something, remember something, show up at a specific time? And if that bar is too high, we don't do it. Because we really believe it's more like, oh, here's this thing that's open all weekend that I can drift in and out of as I need to. But it's not like, oh, I need to be back at the con at 7:31 p.m. because we're mustering for such and such an event. That's just not the style of the thing.
Well, that's one of the beauties of this con is that, number one, I want to make sure that I highlight a couple of things that you said is that, yes, we're playing Lord of the Rings, but I know that Derek from Great Company has run One Ring RPG and sort of, LOTR adjacent sort of things, so and those happen just kind of naturally and without any sort of stress or what's the word I'm looking for, without any sort of
impact on the overall con. Like if you get 6 or 7 people that want to try something new, they can try something new. And that's what the beauty is of not having a kind of a rigid schedule of things to do, because people are just wanting to try new things and wanting to try, something else that may be adjacent to the game. Or some people may also be just wanting to play the game for the whole weekend, so that's it's brilliant the way that you have it set up. So if people want to do something Lord of the Rings related, then they just have to reach out to you. And, again, the yardstick is, hey, can everybody participate? Like the competitive mode tournament that we had, like, hey, you want to organize it? Great. You're in charge of it.
Yeah. We tend to do that a lot. It's kind of funny because people are like, well, why not? It's like, no. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's that we really try to take seriously, like, just the basic structure of the con needs to be totally rock solid and airtight. And we are trying to also build a convention that we want to attend and can attend. I think that's another thing. It's more like, well, why don't you? And it's like, because like, if you want to do this, you're going to see ticket prices go up, A, and B, this isn't going to happen eventually, because like the thing is like we don't burn out like as a team, because we have sort of put parameters around it to say it's this free flowing, it's this relaxed, it's this laid back that, I mean, gosh, everybody on the planning team gets in, a dozen games throughout the weekend. We staff the front desk with volunteers, because once people are in and they kind of get it, they get the achievement system. The thing is kind of a perpetual motion machine for most of the weekend.
Sure.
We've been very blessed by. So.
And you have prizes lined up? Have you had?
Yes. Yeah. We have a whole box. It's not in this office, but it's in my house, of kind of prizes that we collect throughout the year. Sometimes people donate things to us. But yeah, we do try to get out as many prizes as we can throughout the convention. So as you complete an achievement or earn an achievement, you come up to the front desk, you show us your badge number, we plug you in, that enters you into another drawing. But even for showing up at Con of the Rings, you end up with 3 drawings automatically. So it's everything from gift cards to Game Center itself for food, drink, games, to some art prints that have been purchased by some of our staff at Gen Con, other conventions throughout the years, nightmare packs, play mats, some hard to get stuff from around Lord of the Ringsdom. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. And people are very generous with their time and their talents and their treasure. So we always have sort of a new trickle of swag, or rather gifts, prizes kind of coming in, which is kind of fun. So.
Yeah. Ted, you've been to Con of the Rings, as have I. But Ted, what do you have to say about Con of the Rings?
If you can make it, go. It is exactly how John described it. It's if you could just hold up a big sign that says "Games are here," like that's what it is. It's a big sign that just says "Show up," and you can participate in as much or as little as you want to. It's a great chance to meet new players. You and I get to meet listeners of the show too that we haven't met before, which is totally awesome. And yeah, we get the chance to play with people that you might just talk with on the internet or through Discord, and you get to see a little peek behind the curtain of the people that make the content for the community, and meet everybody and just kind of gather around. So it's a great time, and come on out if you can make it, and we'd love to see you there.
Yeah. John, I think I'm going to let you off the hook about talking about Spirit Bilbo. We got into some, but you have to promise me that between now and the time the Con of the Rings happens, we'll do a little less Con of the Rings and a little more card.
Yeah, I still want to talk about Spirit Bilbo, because he's like my favorite new guy. So even though he's not new, as with many unique allies, a certain contract has breathed life into him. Which is very, so.
Right, you're gonna have to figure out how to.
We got you're next to his name.
Cool, thanks, guys.
So, John, as we wrap up the show, I'll say, is there anything that we didn't hit on that you would like to add, or is there anything that you would like to, mention to the community here as we
Yeah, I just a couple quick things. Again, conoftheringsmn.com. If you have questions, you can email us directly at conoftherings@gmail.com. We are on Twitter as well. Just search for Con of the Rings. You can interact with us there. I sort of do gaming Twitter stuff over at Peace and Thought, which is also my username on Discord. So, check me out or say hey if you have questions. Also in the community Cardboard of the Rings Discord server, there is a channel called Con of the Rings. We are very active there. There's not a lot of chit chat until ticket sales go on, but if you pop in there and ask a question, usually one of the 5 of us from the planning team will get you an answer in about 30 seconds, just because we're so excited that somebody has questions about Con of the Rings. So we're a very friendly bunch in the Central Time Zone. So yeah, don't be a stranger. We'd love to chat. And 2, if there's concerns, if you have health concerns, if you don't travel a lot, if you are coming on your own and you're just sort of saying, hey, this might be challenging, like I have got some very specific questions, we're very happy to just talk about that privately. And sort of figure out if there's something that you need that we can help out with in that way,
or even special accommodations and things like that too.
Yeah,
so
for sure, yes. So
yeah, okay. Well, John, Spirit Bilbo another day, but I'm holding you. I mean, October is just a breath away. I mean, let's really. Let's be honest. It's only it seems like it's 4 months away, but it's really just like it's one of those things, right? So, so you can give us an update, and maybe you can spoil another achievement or something, and then we'll get into maybe the achievement is how can you work Spirit Bilbo into a deck? Who knows?
Yeah. It would be my pleasure to do that. I love popping the hood on what we're working on. It's fun. So.
I just named put that in your pipe and smoke it.
There you go.
Okay, well, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We don't even have a card to rate, Ted. We just have to.
I rate Con of the Ring in one ring.
I know, Con of the Rings is one ring, right?
It's right there in the fields, guys.
Yeah, and so there's really nothing bad to say about it. So it's the one con to rule them all.
Right.
So okay, everybody. So join us again next week as we return to talking about more cards in the game. Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.